You thought it was love. You told yourself you were the patient one, the steady one, the man who could absorb the chaos, hold the line, and somehow turn the whole situation into something healthy just by staying calm, staying loyal, staying good. You believed that if you loved harder, explained clearer, gave more, and asked for less, the relationship would finally settle into the kind of peace you kept promising yourself was just around the corner. But when you look back with clear eyes, you don't see a love story. You see a slow leak. You see 3 years, maybe more, spent apologizing for things you didn't do, canceling plans you were excited about, walking on eggshells inside your own home, and shrinking your life down to the size of someone else's mood. You remember nights where you stared at the ceiling, rehearsing conversations in your head like you were studying for an exam you could never pass. You remember checking your phone like it was medical equipment, like one missed vibration could mean a fight, a meltdown, a punishment, or a day of silence. You remember spending money you didn't want to spend on gifts that didn't land, on trips you didn't enjoy, on fixes that never fixed anything because it felt easier than the fallout. And when you finally left, you didn't walk away with closure. You walked away with a chest that felt hollow and a voice that didn't sound like you anymore. If you've lived this, you already know the most confusing part. It wasn't always bad. In fact, the reason it lasted is because it wasn't bad all the time. The good moments were real enough to keep you hopeful. The chemistry was strong enough to keep you attached. The apologies sounded convincing enough to keep you invested. And there were times she could be warm, soft, generous, even brilliant, exactly the kind of woman you could imagine building with. That's how the trap works. Toxicity doesn't usually show up in a villain costume. It shows up as charm. It shows up as intensity that feels like passion. It shows up as vulnerability that looks like intimacy. It shows up as, I've never felt this way before. I've been hurt. Don't leave. You're different. You're the only one who gets me. And because you're not a cruel man, because you were raised to protect and provide, because you have empathy, you lean in. You don't see a pattern yet. You see a person. But here's the truth most men learn late. When someone is building a relationship, your life gets bigger. When someone is building control, your life gets smaller. It starts quietly, not with screaming, not with obvious threats, with little shifts, tiny taxes, small penalties for independence, a cold tone when you go to the gym, a heavy sigh when you mention your friends, a joke that lands like a jab, a sudden sadness when you're about to do something you enjoy, a problem that appears the moment you try to rest, and before you know it, your calendar doesn't belong to you. Your attention doesn't belong to you. Your peace doesn't belong to you. Your time becomes something you have to earn. One of the clearest signs you weren't in love, you were being managed, wasn't the yelling. It was how quietly she claimed ownership over your day. If you didn't text back fast enough, there was a consequence. Not always loud. Sometimes it was a paragraph the next morning about how your silence proved you didn't care. Sometimes it was a mood that filled the room like fog. Sometimes it was a long pause, a cold shoulder, a withdrawal that made you feel like you'd lost your place in her world. So you adjusted. You apologized even when you didn't understand what you did. You promised to do better even when the standard kept changing. You started preemptively managing her reactions, sending extra messages, giving extra reassurance, rushing home, cutting conversations short, scanning her face, for the earliest sign of trouble, like a man trained to detect danger. And each time you did it, she'd soften just enough to keep you hooked. Maybe she'd smile and say, "I know you'd never hurt me," as if that sentence erased the pattern and made you the hero again. But the point was never trust. The point was training. Because emotional manipulation isn't just someone needing you, it's someone shaping you. It's someone teaching you through guilt, tension, and reward that the safest way to live is to orbit them. And the more you tried to be the good guy, the more your goodness got turned into a leash. A lot of men miss this because they confuse love with responsibility. They think, if she's hurting, it's my job to fix it. They think, if she's upset, I must have done something wrong. They think, if she's insecure, I need to reassure her harder. But that's not partnership. That's emotional labor on a payment plan. Healthy love doesn't require you to surrender your nervous system. Healthy love doesn't make you monitor your phone like a parole officer monitors a GPS bracelet. Healthy love doesn't punish you for being a separate human being. Another part that breaks men down is the psychological fog, the constant sense that you can't trust your own memory. You swore she said she supported your side hustle. You remember her telling you to go for it, telling you she believed in you. But later, when you invest time into it, she acts betrayed, says you're neglecting her, says she never agreed to any of it. You remember her promising to meet you for dinner, but when she's late or doesn't show, she claims that you never communicated properly or that you changed the plan. You remember the exact words, the exact moment, and yet somehow you end up apologizing anyway. Because every disagreement becomes a courtroom and you're always the defendant. This isn't normal miscommunication. This is a tactic. This is reality being rewritten to keep you off balance. The goal isn't accuracy. The goal is power specifically. The power that comes from making you doubt yourself. Gaslighting doesn't always sound like you're crazy. Sometimes it sounds like you're too sensitive. That's not what happened. You always twist things. Why are you making me the villain? You're remembering it wrong. I can't talk to you when you're like this. And because you want peace, you start letting it go. You stop fighting over details. You stop bringing up old conversations. You stop insisting on your own experience. You start lowering your reality to match hers. And over time, something dangerous happens. You lose your internal compass. You stop trusting your gut. You start outsourcing your sense of truth to the person who benefits from you being confused. A man can survive a lot. Men survive stress. Men survive long hours. Men survive hardship. But the thing that drains a man faster than almost anything is living in a constant state of self-doubt, especially when he's trying to love someone. Because then even your strength becomes evidence against you. If you stay calm, you're cold. If you speak up, you're aggressive. If you set a boundary, you're selfish. If you ask for clarity, you're interrogating. If you need rest, you're neglecting her. And no matter what you choose, you're wrong, in a way that requires you to apologize. That's not conflict resolution. That's a rigged game. Then there's the transactional praise, the kind that feels supportive until you notice it only shows up when your success benefits her. When you get promoted, she's proud because it means a nicer car, nicer dinners, better photos, more status. When you achieve something, she celebrates until your attention shifts to your own goals, your own growth, your own momentum. Then suddenly, you're changing. Suddenly, you're not the man she fell in love with. Suddenly, your ambition is selfish. And when you need help, real help, something changes. When you're dealing with your family, your health, your stress, your bills, your grief, your pressure, your fear, now she has too much going on. Now she needs you to be strong. Now she's overwhelmed. Now your vulnerability is an inconvenience. And you learn a brutal lesson. The relationship had room for her emotions, but not for yours. A lot of men don't call this what it is because they've been taught not to complain. They've been taught to handle it. They've been taught that if a relationship is hard, you just try harder. But there's a difference between effort and erosion. Effort builds. Erosion dissolves. If, month after month, you feel less confident, less energized, less connected to your friends, less proud of yourself, less free to be honest, something is wrong, not hard, wrong. One of the biggest lies men tell themselves in these situations is, she just has trauma. Maybe she does. Trauma is real. Pain is real. Mental health struggles are real. But here's what you have to understand. Trauma explains behavior. It doesn't excuse patterns that destroy you. Trauma is not a permission slip to control, manipulate, isolate, or drain someone. A partner who is healing takes responsibility for their healing. A partner who is controlling uses their wounds like a weapon and calls it sensitivity. You saw it in the way she handled your boundaries. When you tried to set a simple limit 2 hours after work to decompress, an evening with your friends once a week, a no phone rule during dinner she didn't negotiate like a teammate. She reacted like you committed betrayal, and the move was always the same. She framed your boundary as a cruelty. You used to be so giving. I guess I'm too much. If you loved me, you'd want to. Other. Men would be grateful to have me. Why are you making me feel unwanted? It's emotional jujitsu. You bring up what you need, and suddenly you're defending your character. So you back down. Not because you agree, but because the argument is exhausting. And because the cost of standing firm is days of tension, coldness, or chaos. This is how good men get trapped. They confuse peacekeeping with love. They keep sacrificing short term to avoid conflict, but the long-term bill is their identity. Another sign a lot of men recognize too late is the slow demolition of your support system. It rarely starts as you can't see them. It starts as comments. I don't like how your friends talk. They don't respect me. I feel weird around them. I don't think they want the best for you. Your brother is a bad influence. Then it becomes timing problems. Every time you have plans, she has an emergency. Every time you're about to go out, she's suddenly anxious, sad, sick, or not okay. If you go anyway, you pay for it with silence, guilt, or a fight. If you stay, she rewards you with relief, sometimes affection, and you feel like you did the right thing. Until you look around and realize you've been slowly cut off. And isolation is never accidental in a controlling relationship. Isolation is the strategy, because the more connected you are to other people, the harder you are to control. Your friends remind you who you are. Your brothers tell you what's normal. Your family notices when you've dimmed. Your circle holds up a mirror that threatens her version of reality. So the circle has to go. And you let it because you think you're proving loyalty. But loyalty isn't the same as surrender. Love isn't supposed to cost you your brothers. Then there's the invasion disguised as concern. Can I see your phone real quick? Why are you following her? Who was that? Where are you following her? You? Send a picture. Prove it. At first you laugh it off. You tell yourself she's just protective. You tell yourself it's normal. You tell yourself you have nothing to hide. But a relationship isn't supposed to feel like surveillance. Trust doesn't require constant evidence. When you find yourself deleting harmless things to avoid arguments turning off your location, hiding normal conversations, shrinking your life to reduce her reactions, you're not being respectful. You're being managed. And the most dangerous part is how normal it starts to feel. You stop noticing your own discomfort because you've been trained to treat discomfort as the price of keeping her calm. Let's talk about money, because this one hits men hard. It often begins with a small favor, something reasonable, something you're proud to provide. You want to be dependable. You want to be the man who shows up. But then the favors stack. And they don't stack like teamwork. They stack like entitlement, groceries, bills, a one-time purchase, a debt she'll pay back, an emergency, a treat she deserves, a lifestyle upgrade that somehow becomes your responsibility. And when you hesitate, even politely, she doesn't respond with understanding. She responds with shame. So money matters more than me. I thought you were different. I would do it for you. You're not a real provider. You're being controlling. Notice the trick. She reframes your boundary as a moral failure. And many men fall for it because they want to be honorable. They don't want to be stingy. They don't want to be the guy who says no. But providing is not the same as being used. A good partnership has transparency, agreement, planning, and mutual effort. A toxic dynamic has pressure, guilt, and consequences. And a man can lose years of progress because he confuses being generous with being obligated. Then there's cheating, or the gray zone that feels like cheating. You find the messages. You see the inconsistency. You catch the lie. You approach it like a mature adult. You don't explode. You bring it up calmly. You ask for the truth. And instead of accountability, you get a counterattack. You're insecure. You're paranoid. You're always accusing me. Why can't you just trust me? You're the reason I feel trapped. Sometimes they'll cry. Sometimes they'll rage. Sometimes they'll act offended that you even asked. Sometimes they'll pivot to your flaws so fast you forget what you were talking about. And if you've been in this long enough, you end up apologizing for confronting the betrayal. That's how deep the conditioning goes. Real accountability is simple. I did it. I'm sorry. I understand how it hurt you. Here's what I'm doing to rebuild trust. If you never get that, if every issue becomes your fault, then you're not dealing with a mistake. You're dealing with a system. And that system is designed to keep her untouched while you carry the weight. Now, here's the part men need to hear without sugarcoating. You cannot love someone into respecting you. You cannot be patient enough to make manipulation disappear. You cannot communicate your way out of a dynamic that is built on control. Because the problem isn't a lack of understanding. The problem is a lack of honor. A healthy partner cares about your peace. They care about your friendships. They care about your goals. They care about your rest. They care about your dignity. They can be hurt without punishing you. They can be upset without rewriting reality. They can ask for reassurance without demanding obedience. A toxic partner may say they love you, but their version of love requires your submission. And that's not love. That's possession. So what do? You stop waiting for a dramatic moment that proves you're allowed to leave. Men do this all the time. They wait for the explosion. They wait for the undeniable betrayal. They wait for the moment where everyone will understand, where nobody can question their decision, where they'll feel justified. But if you require disaster to validate your boundaries, you will stay too long. You don't need a courtroom-level case to choose yourself. You need pattern recognition. Look at the pattern. Do you feel calmer when she's not around? Do you feel anxious when your phone lights up? Do you rehearse conversations in your head to avoid her reactions? Do you hide parts of your normal life because it's easier than fighting? Have you become less connected to your friends? Have you become less focused, less motivated, less yourself? Do you apologize constantly just to keep the peace? Do you feel like your needs are too much, but hers are always urgent? If the answer is yes, you don't need more time. You need a decision. And here's the key. The boundaries are not requests. They're standards. A boundary is not please, don't do that. A boundary is, if you do that, I will remove myself from this. That's what gives it weight. So you start with clarity. I'm not available for silent treatment. If you go cold for days, I won't chase. I will step back. I won't be spoken to with disrespect. If it happens, I leave the conversation. I won't be guilted for seeing my friends or family. I won't lend money or share finances without a plan we both agree on. I won't prove my loyalty with constant access to my phone. Say it once, calmly, without a speech, without debate, and then you watch what happens. Because a healthy person might not love the boundary, but they will respect it. A controlling person will test it immediately. They will treat it like a challenge. They will punish you for having it. And that's the moment you stop negotiating. A man's life changes when he learns this. Consistency is stronger than intensity. You don't need to yell. You don't need to insult. You don't need revenge. You need follow through. If you say, I won't tolerate this, and then you tolerate it, the boundary teaches them nothing. But if you quietly remove yourself every time the line is crossed, you regain authority over your own life. Now, if you're already out, if you left, and you're reading this with that hollow feeling in your chest, here's what comes next. And it matters. Leaving a controlling relationship doesn't just end the relationship. It exposes what happened to you. At first, you may miss her. That doesn't mean you made a mistake. That means your nervous system got addicted to the cycle. Stress, relief, stress, relief. Your brain learned to chase the good moments like a reward. That's biology, not weakness. You may second guess yourself. That doesn't mean you were wrong. That means you were trained to doubt yourself. You may feel ashamed. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you're a man who took love seriously and stayed longer than you should have because you hoped the best was real. So rebuild with intention. Start basic. Sleep, hydration, movement, sunlight. Get your body steady so your mind can follow. Call the people you disappeared on, not with a long explanation, just honesty. I went through something and I lost myself for a while. I'm back. Get back in the gym, not to punish your body, but to remind your mind what discipline feels like. Men don't just need comfort, they need structure. They need a sense of forward motion. Write down what happened, not to obsess, but to see the pattern clearly. In the fog, everything feels like isolated incidents. On paper, it becomes obvious. The same tactics, the same cycles, the same outcomes. If you can, talk to a therapist or counselor who understands manipulation dynamics. Not because you're broken, because you're undoing conditioning. Because you're learning to trust yourself again. And learn this sentence like it's a code you live by. I don't need to convince someone to treat me well. You don't. The right people don't require persuasion. Now for the men who are still inside it, still trying to be the bigger man, while your confidence drains, listen closely. Your patience is not infinite wealth. Your time is not renewable. Your peace is not a luxury. If you keep sacrificing your life to manage someone else's instability, you will wake up older with less energy, fewer friends, less momentum, and a version of yourself that feels like a shadow. And the hardest part is that you'll have done it with good intentions. Good intentions do not protect you from bad patterns. So stop asking, how do I fix her? Ask, what is this costing me? Stop asking, how do I prove I love her? Ask, why do I have to prove it every day? Stop asking, how do I keep the peace? Ask, why is peace always my job? Because a woman who truly loves you, who is emotionally safe, does not make you apologize for existing. She doesn't punish you with silence. She doesn't weaponize tears to win arguments. She doesn't require you to shrink so she can feel big. She doesn't isolate you from your brothers. She doesn't treat your boundaries like betrayal. She doesn't disappear when you're vulnerable. She doesn't make you earn basic respect. Real love adds strength to your life. It doesn't drain it. And when you finally accept that, and you walk away without performing one last speech, without begging to be understood, without chasing closure, you don't lose love. You regain your life. You regain your mornings. You regain your weekends. You regain your focus. You regain your voice. You regain the man you were before you started asking permission to breathe. And here's the most important piece. You do not need to be fix it. You were never broken. You were worn down. You were trained to over-explain, over-give, over-apologize. You were taught by this dynamic to confuse suffering with loyalty. But loyalty without dignity is not loyalty. It's captivity. So protect yourself now, not later, not after one more try, not after the next apology, not after the next promise. Now, choose standards over hope. Choose clarity over confusion. Choose peace over intensity. Choose your brothers over isolation. Choose your future over a cycle that keeps eating your present. And if you needed permission to do that, here it is. You are not asking too much. You are asking for what should have been normal all along. Respect, consistency, accountability, safety, partnership. That's not a fantasy. That's the minimum. And the moment you treat it like the minimum, your life starts coming back to you.